Yes, sir.
266.
Man, that was a ride, man. I'm telling you. That card definitely pulled off, man. It was one of the most underrated cards of the year. Ortega and Alex put on an absolute show. It was crazy, man. And I say, like the third round, when Volkanovski gets out of those, not only the mounted guillotine, but then he gets out of the triangle. Brian Ortega's nickname is T City,
Yep.
Triangle City. That's his move. That's his signature move, and he ended up inside of it in the third round and survived both of them. You know what I'm saying? And then as soon as he got done, just beat the shit out of Ortega on the ground, man. It was wicked. Um,
Yeah.
but just goes to show you that put some damn respect on Volkanovski's name, man. I'm telling you. Um,
Definitely.
and if it wasn't there for people before, it's there now, and that was it just to show the resilience, the that you can go through fire like that, man, and still come out on the other end and win the fight. I mean, he beat Ortega down.
Down.
Um, absolutely, man. This is an awesome man. I'm glad they're doing the shows. Um, slowly working our way back to getting everything normal. But man, from start to finish, you had the return of the Nick Diaz coming back. You had the Bullet, just raining on. I don't think there's anybody in that division that challenges her. You got Curtis back in the division in the win column. But my boy Dan Hooker to start off. Dan Hooker, how do you not love this guy, man? Like, he's from New Zealand, City Kickboxing, but he's with, Israel Adesanya, Cara de France, whatever his name is. Volkanovski's with those guys. Just, whatever they're doing over there in New Zealand, Australia. You got Robert Witt out there too. I don't think he's a part of them, but the fighters out there, man, are making their way to mainstream. They've got two champions, under their kickboxing organization.
Yes,
But
sir.
Dan Hooker, man, he's awesome on the mic. His his swagger, everything you ask for, he checks. He's just, he's got a few stumbles along the way. The Michael Chandler thing. So I was surprised to see him like on the prelims coming into it.
Yeah.
But he had a bunch of visa issues. They couldn't. They're doing stuff really weird over there, where they got to quarantine 2 weeks. They're letting only certain people in and out. Once you get in, it's just a nightmare down there. Um, but it was good to see him back in action. I knew I knew where to put my money when I had him, because I mean, let's face it. I think I went. What was it? 5 for 5. What was it last week? I'm not sure with all Johnny P's picks.
You're 5 for 5. I'll give you that.
All right. We gotta keep this ball rolling, man. We gotta keep it rolling. Is it luck? It's only gambling if you don't know what the hell you're doing.
You got to keep on say making your 5 for 5, man.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Now, when I go 0 for 5 next, I hope I don't get kicked off of it.
The king
but
of
but
working Tommy push-ups.
but no, man. It was just good to see him doing his thing. And you can tell it doesn't matter who it is. He's not a guy who is, oh, I just want to fight this guy because it's going to get me to the belt. I want to fight this guy. Dan Hooker will fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. As long as that boy has a visa, he is whooping some ass, and it's awesome to see, man. So he came in against Nasrat and he did his thing. We knew he was going to do his thing. Those guys went to the Raiders game after that, I believe, just because they when they go back home, they got to quarantine for 2 weeks.
You got
So
that
they
card.
were in Vegas. They stayed in Vegas, and all those dudes went to the Raiders game, and they got on the big screen. They said they were getting messages from back home saying everybody's jealous that they're out and about, because like legit over there he was saying on the Ariel Hawani show that you can't do anything. All the gyms are closed down. The police, they called the police on him for training when he was down there because you're not even supposed to be in the gym. It's crazy. They're in the state that we were, however long ago, only it hasn't ended over there. He owns a gym that he can't rent anybody, or you can't have anybody coming in. You can't have, what do you call those, memberships and stuff like that because they're not allowing it. Like they literally had to break chains to train. So for him to do that, go through all the things he had to go through, he got a visa last minute because he had to write like the government of New Zealand just to get clearance to get out of New Zealand. So he had to fly 14 hours to quarantine and drop 16 pounds to get to 155. And it was like nothing. They were asking him, is he going to have trouble? He didn't bat an eye. It was crazy. He dropped the weight, made it, and put on a show, man. And he's only up from here. Now, he takes, after the win, he tells him, give me anybody. It doesn't matter. But it was like everybody thought he was going to go back to New Zealand, handle business over there, and we would see him, later on next year or something like that. There's no way anybody thought he was going to fight this year. And then breaking news, not breaking news, Rafael Dos Anjos, who was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev in the 155 division, injures his foot or knee or something and needs surgery, so he's out of the fight. Islam and him have a little back and forth about it. Islam doesn't have a partner. He says, I'll be there no matter what. I'm in Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
And I'd imagine either Dan Hooker reached out. It's hard for me to see Sean Shelby, Dana White, any of those matchmakers calling Dan Hooker 2 days after his fight with this guy to say, we want you to fight Islam Makhachev. Will you do it in a month? You know what I'm saying? There's no way they would have just done that unless Hooker's like, give me somebody, give me anybody, call them, tell them I want to fight. And then, oh shit, Hooker wants to fight. Let's go. Makhachev, Mike. And I'm sure to go. He's not only the wrestling, he's got the striking.
Yep.
But I love Dan Hooker so much, man. I'm torn here, man, because I know my heart's telling Dan Hooker, but my mind is saying Islam Makhachev is just a force that will not be stopped. Those dudes from Dagestan are another type of breed, man. It's nothing nice when you get in the ring with them or the octagon. But Hooker hasn't had a chance to show off his wrestling. I mean, he's he goes the distance with guys. He's tall. He's lanky. He can. Who knows, man? Maybe Islam can handle a big body like that. And those boys from City Kickboxing, man, they're no slop on the ground either. So it's tough, man. But it was really good seeing Dan Hooker do his thing.
Yeah, in the fashion that he did it, being able to wrestle.
Yeah,
nobody thought
exactly.
he was going to come in and do that. We're
Exactly.
expecting striking to be the to be the key. But then
and you do what you got to do, man.
But we have Curtis Blades pulling out his
victory. Now, people gave him grief about the victory. It wasn't the most exciting. It wasn't. But what I say to that, and I agree. We love to see fists fly. We love to see knockouts.
Yep.
Fish do fly.
He's got no power. I just an opportunity to get the victory without him. He didn't. It wasn't where he was in any kind of trouble or anything like that. He knew what he had to do to win, and he won. Yep. And I think in his case, when you take chances and stuff like that, you risk the knockout. Hence, Derek Lewis. Curtis Blades was probably one fight away from getting a title shot, and he gets knocked out by Derek Lewis when he was waiting for the shot. And let's face it, Derek Lewis caught him with that uppercut. He's got insane knockout power, and laid him out. And now he fights Rosenstruck, let's say he loses that fight, who knows what happens? You know what I mean? It's the heavyweight division. You don't know. Hey, we've got Cyril Gane, the interim champion right now, ready to fight Ngannou. It's nobody's seen that a year ago, months ago. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So for Curtis, I say you got the W, my man. Feather in your cap and just keep it moving. Don't you can't listen to anybody because that's not your career. It's not their career, and you got to do what you got to do to win. And I know Curtis Blades was in full control of that fight, and it was just like, this is what I'm going to do to win, and that's what he did. So,
and I feel, I feel out of those two guys, Curtis Blade is the better fighter out of him. Derek Lewis has knockout power, but you've seen Blades can wrestle and handle his business.
Exactly. And Lewis admits that. Lewis says, I'm not technical, nothing like that, but he gets in there and he dogs it out, and it worked out. It worked out against Alexander Volkov. It worked out against Curtis Blades and gave him the opportunity to fight for the interim title. But when you get in there with the big dogs, championship #1 contender, Cyril Gane is just levels above him. And it just came down to experience, technicality, which Derek Lewis is not. And, he might if he keeps going one day, but, I mean, he's happy where he's at. I would be. The guy, the fans love him. That event was designed for him to win. It was in Houston. It was in front of the home crowd. Everything was made for him. And that's what I love about this. The UFC can put anybody, any organization, Bellator, I mean, it doesn't matter. They can put people to the forefront. People get pushed to the front. But in the end, you have to perform. You have to win the fight. You have to do this. Again, they can push for anybody.
They can't make you win.
Exactly. So when it comes down to stuff like that, it's crazy. But I love it, man.
Then we had Nick Diaz making his way.
And that was the warm up. I mean, let's face it. Everybody was waiting for this. Everybody was waiting for the Diaz return. For six years, we've been waiting for Nick Diaz to come back. Yep. And Nick Diaz was one of the reasons I started watching mixed martial arts. We had a buddy years ago who put me on to mixed martial arts, and it was Nick Diaz and Strikeforce that he was watching. Now, growing up, it was, Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz were like brought it to the mainstream and stuff like that. But when I was watching it, when I paid attention to it, it was the Diaz brothers. It was these guys coming up. Nick Diaz, beforehand in his Strikeforce days, just being a monster and stuff. And he goes through his troubles with the UFC. He's not the most active fighter before he leaves, but he leaves. When you're in the ring with him, or in the ring, I keep saying the ring, man. We got to start talking about boxing or something. when you're in the octagon with him. He was just a dog, man, and you loved to root for him. He represented everybody. He represented the dude outside, the dude across the street, just your buddies from school, just a tough scrapper who was willing to dog it out with anybody. So I fell in love with Diaz right away, man. When he came up and he had his title fight against GSP. When he fought Anderson Silva, just fights like that are where the Diaz name comes from. Now, Nate coming along, obviously he's a bigger superstar than his brother. He just happened just with the progression of the UFC, it happens. But Nick Diaz is the reason Diaz did everything. You know what I mean? It started with him, with the OG. Yep. And he goes through his issues with the UFC, and he goes through the suspension for marijuana and just all kinds of bullshit, really, just to put it frank.
Yep. And it's cool now.
And exactly, and everybody knew that the testing was going to come along and stuff like that, but it was an issue at the time, and Dana White was extremely against it, as long as fighters didn't get caught. Yep. So he has his issues, and he gets suspended. Well, then not only does he get suspended, he says, "Fuck this, I'm walking away." Walks away for 6 years, right? Now, he's trained, we're all assuming he's training the entire time because he's staying in shape. there's always a hint, is he returning? Is he coming back? But he said he left it for his brother Nate to take. He left it for Nate. He basically, not only with the suspension, but said he stepped out of the way for his little brother to take it. When little brother came through and did his thing, you know what I mean? Yep. And maybe it was something to where he's like, hey, it's time to come back. But this fight came with a ton of controversy. Like, it was weird the entire thing, the way it went, how it was set up, how fast it happened, was just weird from the jump. And Nick Diaz has always had a history with having, sketchy management and stuff like that. He comes under the Gracie camp. I think the Caesar Gracie camp, but I might get the first name wrong, but definitely with the Gracies. And, at one time they went from coach to manager to agent. And when you have these guys in all these positions, lines get blurred. And, I think there was something there back then with the way, but he ended up staying, whether they went parts, he ended up back with Gracie. At one point in the fight, he said he didn't know who his management team was. Like, those are questions that you need answered before you step into the octagon on the highest stage. You know what I mean? So this entire thing came about, I don't know, last year, when Nick Diaz puts up a video on his Instagram and he's shredded, and he steps on a scale while saying that he did some training camp and he went through it and he wants to fight, and he tipped the scale and it was 168, right? So then the buzz got going. Oh my God, Nick Diaz is back. He wants to fight at welterweight. It just went crazy. Everybody was picking it up, talking about he was going to come back. And then it kind of got quiet where you didn't know what was going on. It was, the buzz was there, but it was just kind of like, oh, maybe he was just showing off to the gram. And then Dana White announces that Nick Diaz will return and he didn't have an opponent. Then all of a sudden it was him versus Robbie Lawler. Then all of a sudden it was in a month. It was crazy how it went about. I think it was about 2 months' notice. I'm not sure if he had a full 6-week training camp. Whatever it was, the UFC assumed he was either ready to go or wanted him to go, and a fight was made. I don't even know how much they talked to him about it, because if you talked to him before the fight, all the interviews he had said he didn't know how this fight got made. He didn't want any part of it. He didn't want to fight Robbie Lawler because he said he wanted Usman. He said it did nothing for him. And when you see interviews like that before the fight, it makes you worry, because you're like, well, what's going on here? If he doesn't even want this fight, did somebody make this decision and just kind of tell him, hey, this is what's happening. We need to get paid here. You know what I'm saying? Yep. It's not. It was absolutely crazy. And then the fight was scheduled to be at 170. Monday or Tuesday, I might get the date wrong. The Diaz camp calls Dana White, tells him, look, we can't do it at 170. We got to do it at 185. Got to be at middleweight. Dana White says he doesn't know how to react. He gets like, what the hell's going on? They're adamant. They need it at 185. And that's Monday or Tuesday, and Saturday's the fight. So Robbie Lawler's been cutting weight this whole time to try to make 170. Robbie Lawler's a big boy.
Yep, trying to make 170.
Exactly, trying to make 170. So he's cutting weight. He's cutting weight. He's in the sun and working out. Whatever he's doing. Well, he's on a plane when Dana White gets the call and calls him. Tells him about it. Robbie Lawler tells him, look, I got to talk to my team. I got to talk to somebody about this. I'll call you when I land. So Dana White does a press conference and tells the media that he told Robbie Lawler about it, and Robbie Lawler's going to get back to him. So the fight is all of a sudden in limbo on Monday, right? I'm sure everybody was sweating balls. Lawler thinks about it and tells him, let's go. 185, doesn't matter. I'll fight him. It doesn't matter what weight class. That says a lot about the fighter that Robbie Lawler is. Because how it should have went is you say, nope, we signed a contract at 170. You don't make the weight. I get a percentage of your purse. Yeah. And I'm sure Dana White sweetened the deal with Robbie Lawler when it came to making that decision, because we're talking about a 15-pound weight difference from 170 to 185.
That's a lot.
So
you're not talking
I'm sure. And I'm sure Dana White said, look, we'll give you a little something extra if you just, sign the deal. And Robbie Lawler's a dog, man. And he said, let's go. So that that right there showed me, you know, I already had respect for the guy, but honestly, showing me that is just above and beyond, man. He didn't have to do that. He really didn't. He owed Nick Diaz nothing. You know what I'm saying?
And knowing Robbie Lawler, he probably didn't get nothing. He probably just said, go.
Exactly. And not only that, so now if you're Robbie Lawler, you just signed up, it's Tuesday. You're cutting to 170. Now you've got to turn around, and you got to pound the weight on. Are you going to pound on 15 pounds by Saturday? You know what I'm saying? So then not only that, you're worried about coming into the fight light. Then you're worried about Nick Diaz. Now he might be coming in over that. He might be fucking 187. You know what I'm saying? You never know what he's weighing. So now, not only are you dealing with you being light, this dude might be coming in way overweight. The odds are stacked against him. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Robbie Lawler says, let's do it. So they talked to Robbie Lawler about it, and they asked him, how much do you weigh? And he says, look, man, I'm light, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to fight. So they weighed the scales, and I think he was 184, 183, something like that. He was close. And Diaz obviously hit the mark. But when all of that was going on, we were still getting the interviews from Nick Diaz about the fight and not knowing how, why, who, what, where, which really, really worried me when I not only picked the fight, but when I thought about it. When you consider being out 6 years, wherever this Instagram video came from of you training, to the fight getting made, you not being able to make it to 170 throws up some major red flags, right? Because, you know, a year ago it was saying you were at 170. So it shouldn't be that hard if you've been training and doing what you need to do to get down to that weight.
Yep.
So what's the issue? Because Nick Diaz is a big boy. You know, he walks around probably 205.
Yep.
So there was an issue when he was cutting the weight that said, you know what? I can't do this. I can't get down to 170. It's got to be at 185. Which worries me moving forward is that the division he's going to stay with to make it, because now you're fighting some big boys in the 185. Yeah. So those are issues that you see. The interviews about everything worry you, what you see. And then the walkout happens. And it was just dope to see Nick and Nate Diaz walk out together, because you become so used to watching Nick behind Nate, cheering on his little brother, cheering on, and you see Nick walking out and Nate behind him. It reminded me of the Strikeforce days that I got into years ago when the two brothers were coming up, and now I'm seeing them years later back together. It was awesome. It was awesome to see, and my heart wanted Nick Diaz to be Nick Diaz, and that just wasn't the case. Now, not to take anything away, but when Nick Diaz came out with that spin kick or the spinning head kick, whatever he attempted, I mean, it was sloppy. And I think maybe Nick Diaz was trying to do something that he did in that fight 17 years ago when he came out with the hopping side kick.
Yep.
I think he was trying to do something like that again, just to, you know, bring it. Okay, you did it. Cool. Let's go. And honestly, it was a good fight the first round. You know what I mean? He looked like the rust was coming off. I mean, Robbie was landing some shots, but for the most part, Nick was doing his thing. The second round, you see Robbie Lawler putting the pressure on. Nick Diaz was backing up the whole fight. And that's not Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is the dog. He is the bully. He comes in and he bullies you. Exactly. So then when you're seeing it, but Nick's not getting his ass kicked. He's trading combos. He's doing his thing. He's getting down, but he's not winning the exchanges. Every time he comes in, he's leaving with a shot.
Yep.
The third round was hard to watch, in all honesty. Like when you go back and you see it, and you see Nick Diaz take some shots, and it was more than obvious that his nose got broke. Oh, yeah. Robbie Lawler broke Nick Diaz's nose, and he hits him. And when Nick goes down, and he goes down like he's telling Robbie, "Come here." Robbie goes, "No, stand up," and he turns around and gives Nick time to stand up. Nick gets on one knee and he kind of looks at Herzog, and he was done. He was absolutely done. He didn't want any more of what was going to happen. And to people that say he quit, he quit, he did this, he did that, I say no. He didn't quit. What he did was he made a decision for his career, because I don't know what the decision was going into this. If it were any other fighter, I'd question it. If it were anything else, I'd have issue or just say, hey, man, he didn't want no more. With Diaz, it was obvious there was issues going into it, and I think in that moment, Diaz was like, I'm fucking done. I came in, I performed, it was 3 rounds, and I don't want any more of this. And Lawler was just going to keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then you have the post-fight interview. And before that, Robbie Lawler goes up and shows him so much love. It was awesome to see that respect between these guys. It was really cool to see. But the post-fight interview, when Nick Diaz is talking to DC and he says, I knew I had this coming. I knew I had this coming. Robbie Lawler. You can interpret that a million different ways. But did you have this coming because you weren't as prepared as you said you were? You had this coming because, hey man, 6 years off is 6 years off. You had it coming. Robbie Lawler has been an active world champion. He's defended the belt. He's been active during that 6 years, and you're coming in. Nick Diaz looked in phenomenal shape for coming in after 6 years, but you don't feed him Robbie Lawler. You know what I mean? If you want Nick Diaz to be the Nick Diaz of old, you put him in there so you warm him up. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like he wasn't on board with this at all. But then again, would anybody have been okay with him? Because he wanted Usman. At the flip of the coin, he said he wanted Usman. That's all he wanted. Maybe anybody else that would have came at him, he would have said no. You don't know. But it sucks because, you watch these guys, and Nick Diaz can't ride off into the sunset. He can't retire tomorrow and be okay and live the rest of his life. And that's not okay for what Nick Diaz has done to the sport. What those two brothers have done for not only the UFC, mixed martial arts. You know what I mean? They brought a whole new dynamic to the game. And it's legends like that should be appreciated and should be taken care of, and should, if Nick Diaz wants to hang it up, he should be able to hang it up. And there was an interview that Nick Diaz did, and it always stuck with me. He was talking about one day, they were talking about it one day with it being over, retiring, and his answer was that he wants to make enough money to be able to get out and live comfortably. And he said he dragged Nate into this. He brought Nate into this. He got them into this. It's up to him to get the bag and get them out of it, right? Now, when you hear fighters talking shit like that, guys fight because they want the belts. Guys fight because they want the wins. They want the fame. They want everything. Nick Diaz is fighting to get out. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that tells you a lot more about his character and the type of person he is, where he feels like he needs to fight to be okay. You know what I mean? And that's not right. Guys like him shouldn't have to worry about things like that for everything that they've done. But again, he's been gone 6 years. Had he been active this entire time and we have this conversation, maybe Dana White does do something. But when you're not active for 6 years, you've got no say-so in what they want to do with you. You know what I mean? Unless you're undeniable. Exactly.
Job, man. You can't not pull up for 6 years and then be like, where's the check at?
Yeah. So it was really
time clocked anymore.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy ending to a fight. And in all honesty, what if you gave Nick Diaz Cowboy Cerrone moving forward? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Cowboy Cerrone's, looking for his last fight. He's at 170. Nick Diaz. I think that's the fight they should have given Nick Diaz the star. Yeah, not Lawler. Yeah. But you give Lawler credit, man. I feel like a lot of that is overshadowing Lawler's win. You know what I mean? For everything that was stacked against Robbie Lawler, he came back, made the weight, and won the fight. You know what I mean? And now people can say, "Oh yeah, he had 6 years off." Whatever. Nick Diaz is a dog. Nobody knew that was going to happen. I just knew that you didn't know which Nick Diaz you were going to see. Anybody who thought they knew what was going to happen with Nick Diaz was wrong, because you had 6 years out, you have no clue what Nick Diaz is walking in there. You know.
And Robbie has no clue of which.
Exactly.
It looks like Nick Diaz is sparring with Jake Paul, though.
Yeah, and who knows, man? They might end up, they might doing the Nate and Paul after a while, or maybe Nick says, fuck it and does it.
That's where you're for the check, go. There's your payday, brother.
Seriously, man. But we're in a day where anything can happen. Anything can happen. It's who knows? Who knows who'll be fighting tomorrow?
But that was a great fight.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
So we have Valentina.
Oh yeah, you had Shevchenko, Valentina the Bullet
versus Lauren Murphy.
Yeah, Lauren Murphy. So here's the thing with Valentina Shevchenko. In the 125-pound division, Valentina Shevchenko is queen, right? Now, 135 and 145 belong to Amanda Nunes. But if you remember, Amanda and Valentina fought twice, right? The first time they fought, Amanda beat her. The second time they fought, it went to decision. Now, a lot of people think that Valentina won that fight, but it went to decision, and it went to Amanda. Amanda's up on her 2-0.
Yep.
But in the 125-pound division, there is nobody else for Valentina to fight. She is an absolute assassin. She has shown time and time and time again that nobody can keep up with the pace that she puts on you besides Amanda. And Amanda's just a bigger girl. She's in a bigger weight class. She's just a bigger girl. You have it in the men's MMA where you have 145 and 155 pounders. That's a big difference. 10 pounds is a lot.
Yep.
And I think any other girl fighter on the roster, Valentina smokes besides Amanda. But I think if you run Valentina and Amanda number 3 at 135, I think Valentina gets it done because she is just getting better. I mean, Lauren Murphy, all the credit to her in the world, had no business in the fight. Now, she fought her way up. She fought her way into the rankings, but even she said in the post-fight, she was just in there with a better fighter. And that's what Valentina is. She's a better fighter than anybody else in that division. Now, Lauren Murphy's got a crazy story. She took her son one day for a karate class and ends up signing up for jiu-jitsu, and all of a sudden ends up in a world title shot against Valentina the Bullet, if not one of the greatest in women's history.
That's amazing.
And you end up in there, the opportunity. So the odds were stacked against her. I give the girl all the credit in the world for going in there and fighting, but Valentina is just a beast. And she put it on her. She put it on her. There's no question. And Valentina even said, she goes, but look for a weakness. There is none. They gave her Jessica Andrade, who's a wrestler. And Valentina took her down and dragdolled her and said, okay, you want me to wrestle? I'll wrestle. I'll do this. No matter who they send at her, besides Amanda, Valentina gets it done. And she said, she goes, look, I'm not chasing anybody fight. I'm not chasing any fight. I'm not asking for anybody. They come to me. Whoever wants it can get it. And I think that's the attitude she needs to have. She's in a movie. She's starring. She's not maybe not starring, but she's in a movie with Halle Berry coming out. She's doing her thing, and that's what you have to do. She said she loves life. She's gonna enjoy it. Whatever they send her, and she's game. for as a big a fan as I am of Amanda Nunes, and I think Amanda's the GOAT, like truly the GOAT. When it comes to that, when it comes to that 125, 135 pound division, look in the stats, she's got Valentina twice. But if Valentina can beat her on this third time, then it solidifies her as the 125 queen, and you gotta gamble the 135 because you can be queen at 145, but that 135 would be popping if they made the fight there. So I give Lauren all the credit in the world, but Valentina is just a monster, and she ain't stopping anytime soon.
Them highlights just now look ridiculous. She look like
exactly
that woman's ass, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she was giving it to her, and any fight before that, she's just getting better. It's crazy.
But the main event, Alexander the Great,
man,
took on Brian.
Put some respect on that man's name.
He's a monster.
That was a dogfight, and now going into that fight. Both of these guys were coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, right? Now, there was the big thing about The Ultimate Fighter coming back. It was supposed to be Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington. They couldn't come to terms, so we get Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski. But at first, everybody's kind of like, what the hell? Like, these guys aren't beef. They're not trying. What's going on here? And you can tell it was a pull to get that division going. For the UFC, they wanted to get eyes on that division. You've got Max Holloway, who reigned king. You got Jose Aldo, who owned the division for a year. Owned it. Max Holloway came and take it, and then the Blessed era happened. You had the Blessed era. Then you run into Alexander Volkanovski. And Volkanovski coming up, right, at one point. So this guy is, I don't know, I'd have to look up his height. 5'9". I don't know how tall he is. 5 something.
5'8", 5'9".
At one point, he was a rugby player and weighed 260 pounds.
Damn.
He is now fighting in the 145-pound weight division.
Nuts.
So not only the endurance, but the mindset of somebody to do that and be able to do that and to win and do that and compete and do that is just insane. So that tells you the kind of monster that he is. But he tore through the rankings, man. He tore through Mendez. He beat everybody and deserved his shot. I think he went 9-0 or whatever it was before he got to Max Holloway, right? Now, the first Max Holloway fight, you can say he beats him. I'd almost agree with you and say he beat him. Man, I would agree with you. I'd have to. He did. He beat him. And he gets the belt, right? Okay. Well, then the rematch happens. They run it back. Now, I had that fight 3-2 for Holloway. Mm-hmm. When Volkanovski when they put the belt on him, I was shocked. I was shocked because, look, Max Holloway is great, but when you leave it to the judges, shit happens. You know what I mean? If you're not knocking a guy out, you leave it in their hands. So while you can be as upset as you want, can't be mad at Alex. You got to be mad at the judges. Yeah. So Alex caught a lot of bullshit in the beginning for the judges' decision, right? They were saying, oh, he never won that fight. He needs to run it back again. Whatever it was, he just wasn't getting the respect that he deserved, in all honesty. And to be honest, I was one of those people who were saying, he needs to run it back. He needs to run it back. We forget, he fought him already. It's the second time he fought him. So when they asked him about it, he said, look, man, I'm tired of fighting Max Holloway. Like, I'm ready to fight somebody else. I'm ready to do something else. And I'm with them. If you're in that position and people just want you to fight the same guy 3 times in a row, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So they're talking about the Brian Ortega, right? Now, Brian Ortega, I love T-City, baby. T-City. Now, Brian Ortega is a monster grappler, right? If he gets you in a submission, his nickname is T-City. That's Triangle City. That's his move. Yeah. T-City. So you know what kind of submission artist he is, right? He's got a nasty guillotine, And when he gets you in that triangle, it's game over. Now, Brian Ortega was undefeated until he ran into Max Holloway. When he ran into Max Holloway, Max Holloway absolutely decimated him. I mean, it wasn't even close. And that's Max Holloway. Not the knockout artist, but will pepper you until he breaks you down from the inside out. And and we've seen it, and Max is only getting better. So Max comes in and destroys Brian Ortega, right? Now, where other people would go and, hang that, Brian Ortega says, I need to do something different, right? Changes his game up, changes his routine up, and ends up getting to fight the Korean Zombie. Now, when he comes back, that was telling. I was like, either Brian Ortega's gonna win and move on, or he's gonna lose, and you're probably not gonna see him for a while. And he comes in and he puts it on the Korean Zombie, puts it on him nice on the feet. So now you know he's getting his hands together, right? And he's always had his hands together, but he's getting them better, right? So when they sign him up for the Ultimate Fighter, during the season there was really no rivalry between these guys. It was nothing like that. Everything was very scripted. It was very forced. It was just a show, right?
Yep.
Well, then just from them being together for so long, guys started having issues. Like Volkanovski's really starting to bring up a lot of stuff. Like he'll talk about how late Ortega was getting to the gym, or how late he was doing this, or just really talking about him not being on time and calling it unprofessional. And then there were times on the show where you would see his fighters waiting in the gym because Brian's not there yet. Now, here's my thing. If Brian's, daily activity is him getting up at 9 o'clock and doing this thing, and that's what he succeeds at, then that's what he does. Maybe he's not meant to be a coach. Obviously, he did it for the money, the ratings, the show, everything. Yep. So you can't really judge him based on that. If you're like, oh, your ass isn't in the gym at 5 in the morning, you don't care. I'm not saying that. But if you have people waiting on you, the worst thing you can do is waste other people's time. Seriously. So if you're doing stuff like that, that's telling that you're not on the same level as Volkanovski. If Volkanovski is beating you to the gym every time, Volkanovski's getting those reps. He's getting that time. He's getting better. You know what I'm saying? So he starts talking to him about him being kind of lazy and everything like that. Well, then Brian Ortega's throwing back the Holloway fight, and then Volkanovski tells him, I wouldn't talk about Holloway if I were you, and brings up that. So the animosity starts building, right? Well, by the end of the Ultimate Fighter, by the time they start doing the interviews, it's clear that these guys do not like each other. Like, they have them both talking, and Volkanovski's just like, even says, I don't have a problem. He's like, I just think he's unprofessional. I don't like him. And then, Ortega starts talking, and it just goes haywire. Volkanovski's like, I'm going to be in there, mate. You'll see me. And they put on an absolute banger. Like, it was so crazy to see not only Brian Ortega to get those submissions and to go the distance while he's getting lit up, Volkanovski to not only escape those submissions, but then to rain down fire on Ortega for doing. You seen Alex get mad when that happened. He got pissed after he got out of that guillotine. And if you're not a fan of MMA, if you don't watch Bellator, UFC, PFL, any of that stuff, and you want to become a fan and you want to understand the sport, you watch round 3 of Volkanovski versus Ortega. When they're going at it, you see, them dotting each other up. It was okay going. That third round was insane when Brian Ortega jumped on Alex for that mounted. That was a mounted guillotine. He was on top of him doing it. I thought that was game over. I thought that Brian Ortega was going to win the belt right then and there. You seen Alex's head turning purple. And when they talked to Brian afterwards, he said you could hear Alex gurgling. He was about to go out. Alex talked to Tony the next day or on Monday, and asked him how he felt, and he said that was as close as he've ever gotten to being to either tapping out, going out. He said that, you know, people see flashes before they die. He said he saw a flash. It was as close as you could possibly get with making it happen. And Alex admits that he's never been more close to being put out than he was in that mounted guillotine. So he gets out of it. Not only that, then he locks it up again. He gets him in another guillotine. Then after that, you see Alex get pissed, and he just starts raining down punches. While he's doing that, Ortega gets him in a triangle. And if you look at the position that Brian Ortega was in, when he almost had a mounted triangle. He was on top, pushing his weight on Alex's head. And like I said, his nickname is T-City. They call him T-City. That's Triangle City. That's his move. When he locked that up, I said again, I picked it up. It's game over. We got a new champ here. And he gets out of it again and gets pissed off all over again. It was one of the greatest shows of resilience, endurance, heart, you name it. Alexander Volkanovski showed it in the third round. And talking to those guys after, Brian Ortega says, I was squeezing as hard as I fucking could. I was squeezing, and I believe it. I believe he was. Alexander is just a fucking beast, and that's what it boils down to. And any respect that people didn't give him going into it, it should be by the wayside now. There's no way that you cannot respect the man after that win. And that's what he was yelling after the fight. Give me my respect. Give me my respect. Give me my respect. And to be honest, he deserves it, man. There was no question the heart of Alexander Volkanovski coming in. And then not only that, putting it on him in the fourth and fifth round. There was still 2 more rounds to go. And Brian Ortega, after that fourth round, I thought he was out. When he didn't get up, when everybody was going to their stools, Brian laid there for a whole 15 seconds when he wasn't supposed to. Alex was pissed. He was yelling at the ref because he wasn't getting up, and he was dazed because he wasn't answering Herb Dean's questions right. Yep. Alex was calling all that out, and he was pissed. And they let Brian Ortega back in. They were asking him, you know, where are you? They were showing, you know, telling him to point to him, telling him to walk to him, everything like that. And Brian Ortega just looked disoriented. He didn't look like he was ready to go. All of a sudden, the fifth round starts, and Ortega's fighting back. He's throwing fucking combos. He's doing his thing. It's crazy. And all of a sudden, you're like, you got to watch for a knockout here. And it goes the distance, and Alex gets crowned. It was, if not, you know, fight of the year, round of the year by far. I haven't seen anything like that. Like, you've seen guys go back and forth. You've seen guys come back. I've never seen that happen. And not only that, to talk about it after with both fighters, like, it was as hard as I squeezed. Alex admitting it was the closest that he was going out. That's got to haunt you if you're Brian Ortega to know you were that close to being the world champ. It's crazy.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely crazy.
That was a great card, I think.
Oh man, it lived up and over-exceeded expectations. Like, you know, there was a lot of hype on it for the Diaz, for, you know, the title fight. They threw the 2 title fights in there, but the Diaz was really the main show, and I'm glad that Alex and Brian put on a show after that fight to give the fans what they deserve. Not saying that Nick and Robbie didn't, but when you left after that Volk and Ortega fight, you saw something special. You know what I'm saying? You got what you came for, and that was an awesome card. And it's just, you know, looking forward to the way everything shakes up from there is awesome. But yeah, no, man, I loved it. I absolutely loved the card. It was so dope. I rewatched the Ortega fight twice, especially the third round. It's I love it, man. I love it.
Saturday, tomorrow, we got UFC Vegas 38.
Oh yeah.
Apex, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh yeah.
We just witnessed the weigh-ins.
Oh man, when what was her name? She almost fainted at the weigh-ins, right?
Yeah, Aspen Land.
Aspen Ladd. All right, there you go. Yeah, Aspen Ladd. Did they end up calling the fight off because of that?
Yeah, they canceled the fight.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
She weighed 138, and she could barely stand up on her own.
Yeah, that's the. You never want to see anything like that. Like when it comes to the sport, but at the same time, weight cutting is a thing. Now, is it an issue? Yes, right. I don't like the way everything is set up where you weigh in at 155, but you have 24 hours, and you can walk in the octagon. If you're 155, Dustin Poirier weighed 190 walking in.
Yep.
You know, when it comes to weight and stuff like that, it's very weird, but they do what they do for a reason, and they're successful at it. So what the hell do I know? But there's been a number of issues with fighters trying to make the weight. Now, the easiest thing would be to say, well, move up in weight. If you can't make the weight, move up. Well, that's not as easy in the women's division. You know what I'm saying? You've got, a lot of killers when it comes to the 125s, 135, stuff like that. But I think it all comes down to your training camp. You know, were you heavy 6 weeks away, right? Did you try to cut 20 pounds in 2 days, and that's why you fainted? Because then it's not on the sport. Then it's not on the UFC. Then it's on you for not getting yourself ready in the set time frame. Now, if you've been doing your thing and you're trying to cut the weight and you just can't do it, your body's that sucked out, then maybe it is time to consider moving up the weight class. Or, again, if you just didn't train in the right amount of time, that's on you. But it's unfortunate because, a girl loses her opportunity, and now, not that it's anything bad, but you've got the weight cutting issue where you might catch her weak at that weight or something like that. You know what I mean? You never want to see anything like that. You never want to see anybody get hurt. But, wish her the best, a speedy recovery. Hopefully she gets back at it because, she's a girl that, you definitely want to watch. But I am excited over my boy Nico coming back.
Nico Price.
Oh man.
Alex Oliveira. I think that's
Cowboy.
I think that's gonna be a good fight.
Oh, 1,000%, man. I would bet money this will not go the distance. I'm telling you. You got Oliveira who is just, again, he's just a dog, man. He's a vet of the game. I'm not sure what his record is. I'm off of a loss, but Oliveira is always exciting when he's in the octagon. It's never a fight, whether it's the pre-fight, whether it's the post-fight, whether if it's in the fight. I mean, when he had that fight with Mike Perry and he's dancing, when he's coming in there checking his gloves and he's doing the salsa or whatever he's doing there, the guy loves the fight. He comes to fight and he loves it, and you can never count somebody like that out. There's never, he'll fight until the day he dies.
Oh yeah.
But he's fighting my boy Nico Price. Now, Nico, I love the guy. And again, we talk about Alex loving to fight. Nico loves to fight. Like, there was a video of him. I don't know if it was Cowboy he was fighting. Cerrone, I mean, not Oliveira. Cowboy Cerrone. And he does a little kung fu move in the octagon, and he's telling me, he's like, how you doing? He's like, great, baby, I love this. When a guy is in the middle of a war, in between rounds, and he's got a busted eye, he's bleeding, and he can look over at his opponent and say, I love this. That in itself shows you what type of fighter he is. It's awesome. And I'm riding with my boy Nico. And these boys are going to come out and they're going to throw hands. And but I think Nico's going to get the W. I hope Nico gets the W, but I don't mind if Oliveira wins. It doesn't hurt one bit because they're both awesome fighters. They love the fight, and what else can you say?
But my boy Kevin Holland, I like him a lot, man.
Big mouth.
Dude. He's going against
absolutely. Kyle Dawkins, I believe.
Dawkins, yep.
Yeah. Now with Kevin Holland, I believe it was a case of too much too fast. Right now, Kevin Holland came in on the was it the Contender Series or the Ultimate Fighter? Maybe it was Contender Series. I'm not 100% sure. But Kevin Holland's always been like this. From the jump, he's been the guy who talks in the octagon. He messes with your head. He's up to the shenanigans, everything like that, right? He blew up last year. He had 5 fights. He was blazing through competition. He's knocking guys out. He knocked out Joaquin Butley. He knocked out Jacare Sosa off his back. The guy was just tearing it up. 5 fights in a row. You can argue with it, right? Then he runs into an issue with Izzy, at the 185 division. Him and Izzy have like a little thing, where Izzy acts like it's no big deal. It's a very big deal to Kevin Holland. You can tell he feels disrespected by Izzy. He said Izzy said some shit to him outside the cage. He was dancing for another opponent. So Holland wants a piece of Izzy, and he even said if he goes up to 205, Holland's going up to 205 too. So Holland's got some, and he wants to give it to him. But when it comes to Kevin Holland, his last loss came against Marvin Vettori, I believe.
Yep.
Right, and the fight before that, help me out, Tommy. Who did he fight before that? Because he's coming off of 2 losses, I believe.
He fought the other big
Derek Brunson.
Yeah, the big mouth.
Derek Brunson.
Yep.
Yep. So they give him Derek Brunson. And it's an absolute shit show. It's an absolute shit show. Brunson's a wrestler, and Brunson can strike, but he's a wrestler.
Yeah.
And Kevin Holland is a wrestler. So he took him down, and he laid on his ass and was beating him up. And Holland's even talking from the bottom. Damn, you're strong. And then that was when he went viral because he was talking to Khabib. Where's my wrestling advice? Where's my wrestling advice? And Khabib was like, you got to focus. And Dana White even said, he had an issue with Kevin Holland, and then when he tells him, Big Mouth, call Big Mouth, see if he'll take the fight. So when they call him for the Vettori fight, I was surprised that Holland took it, knowing that Vettori's a wrestler, unless Holland just doesn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they give him Vettori, and the same thing happens. And he gets out-wrestled, and it's a shit show. Well, he goes to AKA American Kickboxing Academy, and he wants to wrestle with DC and those boys. Well, I think he ended up wrestling with, Coach Mendez and a couple of those guys. I don't know if he ended up with DC or not. Ends up wrestling with those boys, and the vibe you got from Coach Mendez was kind of like, he came in, he came out. Like, DC wasn't here, so he wasn't really, he did a couple reps, and, he wasn't there. For Kevin Holland, you have to spend some time in a gym and get some wrestling. And if you want to fight these big boys in the 185-pound division, you have to be able to wrestle. You have to be able to scramble, fight off your back. You have to be able to do those things with these guys. So he has the Vettori fight, and it happens. It's just like, come on. So now he's taking on Kyle Dawkins. Yep. I feel really good about Kevin Holland taking that fight. And Holland even admits, look, the guy doesn't have a number next to his name, but when they gave me the guys with the numbers, we seen what happened. And there's no shame in that. Honestly, he had 5 wins in a row. They were awesome fights, and the UFC put him in a position. Now he fought some wrestlers. He fights this guy. I think he beats Kyle Dawkins, and then he's able to move forward from there. And then we really see what kind of Kevin Holland we get. If it's a Kevin Holland that has changed, that wants to, not wants to wrestle, but can defend the takedown, things like that, that'll tell us a lot more. I'm always a fan. I'm a fan of Kevin Holland. I love the antics. It's all part of the game. It's how he fights. You know what I mean? Talking to a guy before he punches him in the mouth. That's how he does it, man. And I love it. And you can't be mad at him for it. So I'm rooting for him on this one, and I think he takes the big W.
And then in our main event, Johnny Walker. And,
man, oh man. Johnny Walker and Thiago Santos. So these guys here, again, another fight I don't think goes the distance. You got Johnny Walker, who I believe is coming off of a loss. Both these guys might be coming off of losses. I'm not sure. But I think Johnny Walker is coming off of a 2-year 1 year, maybe 1 year off. I'm not 100% sure. So both these guys are Brazilians. Now, Thiago Santos has been a dog. He's fought John Jones. He's fought in multiple divisions. He's fought light heavyweight. He's fought at middleweight. So he's seen the who's who of any division. So you can, while he has knockout power, he can also wrestle. He's got good grappling. He can strike with you. Johnny Walker is a light show, man. He's coming out with fireworks. He's coming out. He's throwing bombs at you. He is putting on a show when he's in there. I love the way the guy fights, but I got to go with Thiago on this. Thiago is just a vet, and I think he gets it done. But if Johnny Walker can honestly give him the business in the first round, get to him, get in his head, and put him away in the second round, that'll show a lot about Johnny Walker and coming back and seeing where he stands in the light heavyweight division and stuff like that. So sky's the limit. And if you're Thiago, you want this W because you've had such a long career. You got to start making noise. You got to start making noise, and you got to go on a run if you want to, end up fighting for the belt. It's fights like this that you got to win in order to move forward in these rankings. Like, again, Johnny Walker, if he takes another loss, again, you might not see him for a while. Thiago's a dude that you've seen around. So I do think that Thiago gets it done against Johnny Walker, but I'm just saying, Johnny Walker comes to put on a show, and he absolutely will.
Yeah. In the weigh-ins, he showed it.
Yeah, you can never count him out, man. And he said that he's gone to work on his jiu-jitsu. He's worked on his wrestling. He was in Ireland for a while, got married, and he even says, he goes, experience. He's more experienced now. He's more mature. He's not, crazy, not paying attention and stuff like that while he's fighting. So, I wish him the best. Like, again, another fight, I wouldn't be mad if he won. Either or, it doesn't matter. But you got to love it.
Speaking of mature, we had some news over the weekend.
Nice segue. I like that. Our boy Johnny Bones, man. It sucks because you root for. You know what? I shouldn't say you. I root for John Jones, because the man, in my opinion, aside, right, the GOAT, John Jones is second behind him, and when it comes to the octagon, all things considered, what you do inside that octagon should reflect on your career when it comes to, Hall of Fame inductions, stuff like that. Whatever you do out, you can look at someone as a bad person, whatever mistakes they made, whatever they do there. It shouldn't affect your status as an athlete. Not that he shouldn't be inducted in the Hall of Fame or anything like that, but we've given John Jones so many chances because of the success that he's had inside the octagon. The man has been winning world championships since I was a teenager. It's insane how long he's been in the sport and what he's done. But at the same time, John Jones just has some demons he can't get over. And with hearing the news that, because you hear all the shit that he's been through before the arrest, you're rooting for John Jones because not only was not that he was done with the light heavyweight division, he was moving up to heavyweight. He was making a move that not a lot of people do. Now, when people talk about, I'm moving up weight class, going from light heavyweight to heavyweight is a giant jump. Because you got guys at light heavyweight, you got to get on the scale at 205. It don't fucking matter what size they are. You got a guy who's 260 pounds, 270 pounds, Miocic. You got monsters in the heavyweight division. So John Jones says, I'm gonna move up, I'm gonna heavyweight strap, but I'm gonna do it the right way. He's gonna put on the weight, he's gonna work out for a year or two, whatever it was, and he's gonna fight. So you've seen all the drama with, Ngannou fighting Stipe, Ngannou winning the belt, John Jones wanting more money, Dana White saying whatever. They had gone through all the bullshit about him wanting more money. Look, money's a whole different issue and a whole different topic. They should make more money, but at the same time, the past is the past, and it is what it is. Moving forward, I believe John Jones is worth every penny he is at for. If it's 10 mil, if it's 20, whatever that amount is, John Jones has paid the UFC back tenfold. Yeah. But again, is he a draw like Conor? Is he? No, he's not. But at the same time, he has moved the sport forward. He was nothing you'd ever seen in the light heavyweight division. His reign has been like nothing else. The man walks away from the sport, comes in and defends a title. He walks away from the sport, he comes in and wins a title. He has been at the highest level that you can be at for years. It's crazy. So okay. Well, now comes his Hall of Fame induction. So he's at the Hall of Fame, and he looks good. He's posting all these videos of him training. He is solid. I think he said he was at 260 something, or he was at 250 and wanted to be 275. I don't agree with him to be that big because John Jones' speed has always been his moneymaker. His speed, being agile. So even though he can have that as a heavyweight, when you put on too much weight, it'll just make him slow. You know what I mean? Don't sacrifice the speed for power. But again, his choice, whatever he wants to do. So they interview him at the UFC Hall of Fame. He's going in for his Alex Gustafsson fight, which, again, if you're a fan of the sport, you watch that fight. And again, he won. He beat Gustafsson twice. I think when you talk about reigns and records, when it comes to him, I mean, John Jones has beaten any top like Shogun, Lyoto Machida, Rashad. I don't know. You could go through the names, and he's beaten killers. So he beat Gustafsson twice, and he goes in for the Hall of Fame on the red carpet. They're talking to him, they're asking him questions. He's there with his family. It's a good night. He seems in good spirits. Everything seems like it's awesome. And then it all goes to shit. And what sucks is not only, again, if you're gonna mess up, you're gonna mess up. But he dragged his family into it. And again, do what you want. You have money. Do whatever you want. But it's when you put embarrassment on your family, when you put it on your kids, to where not only do you have to answer questions, they have to answer questions. Your kids have. When you start doing stuff like that, it really reflects on the type of person that you are. And the more you hear about this story and the more details that get out, you just lose more and more respect for a person like John Jones, because somebody in that position with that talent, and you can't say it was wasted talent. You really can't, because he's been winning world championships. So not the biggest waste of talent, but if John Jones could figure it out, there might have been no question whatsoever that he could have been the greatest combat athlete to ever walk the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
so
America start being picky.
Exactly. He could have been the greatest, the GOAT, my GOAT, you know what I mean? But what I will say is, and this is the story how I hear it. This is all allegedly. We don't know. But apparently after the Hall of Fame induction, John Jones goes back to the hotel room. Now, apparently, he brought a ton of cash with him. Tells his wife, I'm taking 10 grand and I'm going to the club, right? Whether it be strip club, regular club, I don't know. I would imagine she wasn't too happy about that, given that they were there with their kids. But nonetheless, he goes. At about 5 a.m. the following day, a woman and a girl approach the hotel lobby, and the woman asks for a room key. And she's Jones's fiance of 17 years. They have 3 kids together, 3 beautiful girls, and asks for the room key. Hotel attendant noticed she's got a fat lip and a bloody nose. Ask her if she's okay, and she starts crying and says she does not want to go back to her room. The child says, and I don't know if it's a child, teenager, or a kid. The kid says, can you please call the police? Well, the audio from the 911 call was just released today, and you can hear in the phone call the hotel attendant telling the police officer that, I forget her name, Moses, I don't remember. She's refusing to go back to the room. He literally, for whatever you think about the case, that was actually said. The hotel, she was refusing to go back to the room. So she don't want She ain't gonna go back up there. Okay? So they call the police, and the police don't mess around. They go straight to the room. The room, and immediately she's from the, he didn't hit her, nothing like that. And they ask her, well, what happened? And she said, well, it did get physical. He pulled her hair. Didn't say he hit her, nothing like that, right? So the police notice that she's got a fat lip or bloody lip, and there's blood on her shirt and there's blood on the bed, right? So when they ask her, she says that from the desert heat, her lips get chapped and they bleed, right? Which leads you to believe, again, she did not want to get... Once she thought about it, she didn't want to get him in trouble and didn't want to tell the cops what happened, which, I believe it's happened before. It might be a normal in that home. You don't know, but by those actions and what she did, thought about it, covered it up, that it's happened before. Yep. So they ask her, where Jones is, and he's down on the floor or something like that. So they grab him, they get him, they detain him. Right now, here the details get a little fuzzy because the dash cam footage and body cams or nothing like that's been released. But apparently, they put him in handcuffs, and John Jones says, "How dare you motherfuckers do this to me on the greatest night of my life?" Okay. Well, then they said, greatest night of your life, you're about to be arrested. Well, then somewhere in the mix, John Jones tells those guys, I'd like to see what the fuck happens if you take these handcuffs off me. Basically saying he would take all of them on, right? Which is just, it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look at all. So then when the cops are like, oh, no, we're not worried about it here, you can spend it in jail, John Jones then gets upset and slams his headbutts the hood of the car, which causes a dent and chips the paint, which is why you've seen the felony for injuring or tampering with a vehicle. So he was charged with misdemeanor domestic violence. Misdemeanor domestic violence and felony injuring or tampering with a vehicle. So he was held in Vegas on $8,000 bond and had to sit the weekend and was able to get out, right? Now, here's my thing. When that happens on your UFC night, that in itself is it couldn't be more John Jones-esque with everything that's happened in his career for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame and on the same night wind up in police custody is just it's John Jones's career. And it couldn't have scripted. Think about it. It's kind of terrifying. You know what I mean? Yeah. When it comes down to it, so when he comes out, you would think there'd be an apology, there'd be something, there'd be whatever it was. The first post that he put on was, I have too much trauma in my life to deal with alcohol. I'm putting alcohol in my past. I'm going to use this nightmare as the best thing that ever happened to me to change and, whatever. And it was a video of him working out, right? And then it was a video of him in his class or session or whatever with his coach. That bothers me because although, again, I'm a fan of John Jones, it don't get more narcissistic than that. You know what I'm saying? You were just called out for beating your wife in front of your child, and the first thing you put on there is that you're going to use this to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Not, I apologize not only to my fiance, to my fans, whatever. Everybody fucks up, but it's what you do when the fuck up happens. That you become a better person, you stay the same, or you become worse. And John Jones's history is that he does not learn from his mistakes. Now, more and more details are going to come out about this, right? But we got the gist of the story. Now, can you make a judgment on it? Sure. Should you? Probably not. But if the details that come out are what we think, you got a woman with a professional fighter who has children with him, who is obviously afraid of that person. And she's afraid of that person and is willing to cover up being slapped around. When John Jones put his hands on her, they were in a Vegas hotel. It wasn't like they were at home or nobody's gonna see her. They had to leave the hotel. They would be around the next day. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
He didn't give a shit about it, and which makes you think again that's normal. So not only that, you have this little girl asking the hotel attendant to call the police on her father. It's so sad, and the more you think it, the more disturbing it becomes, and the more respect I lose for John Jones.
Yep.
Truly, it's a sad thing. We hope. Huh? Oh, I lost you there. Oh. Hello?
You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the screen went black for a second. You know, give me the hand up system, my dude, and don't hang me out here, my dude. But no, man. It sucks. It truly sucks because you really hope that he gets better at it, you know. Unfortunately, in John's case, he never had to change because everything he did outside of the octagon, he won inside of it. So why change the behavior if you're getting successful results, right? Now, that's a weird way to think about it. That's a weird thing to say. But at the same time, if you're John Jones and your warped sense of reality, all my antics, all the things I've done, I'm still winning championships. So why would he change it?
Yep.
You still win. You still win no matter what. So I can see, not that I agree with, because I don't, but you can see where that narcissistic cocking can come from because you're winning, you know. And DC said it the best. He said that when he's seen John Jones on Hall of Fame night, he said he's so removed from that rivalry that he was happy for John Jones. But then after Jones gets arrested and you hear the details on what happened, he said it just brought back the reasons why he disliked John Jones. And he goes, it's unfortunate it's unfortunate for his family. You know, he's raising these girls. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look whatsoever for John Jones. And, you know, man, you really hope he gets it together. But honestly, unless he loses, something like that happens, I really don't see it changing. I mean, again, hopefully he makes heavyweight and everything's all good, but history shows that as long as you win, he's gone, man.
Yeah.
But I just, like, you know, when people make the comparisons about, you know, him, the UFC, and when they were saying that I don't. With Dana White in Vegas, I don't think it's a John Jones in Vegas thing. I think it's a John Jones thing, because even though the issues in Vegas, and Dana White has said him and Vegas don't agree, and we try to get him here in and out, and John Jones fucked up in New York. You know, he fucked up in Albuquerque. You know, firing a gun, drinking tequila, having blow on him, all that shit. When he was at the press conference with DC, and DC's calling him a junkie, and he tells him, hey, I beat your ass after a weekend of cocaine. And, you know, when you do shit like that and you win, who's there to stop you? You know what I mean? And they asked Dana White, you know, how many issues have you? Yeah, exactly. How many issues have you had? And he's like, we deal with shit every day. We deal with fighters every single day with shit. And I believe it. Like, truly, how many instances have you not heard about? Not only John Jones, anybody. Name anybody. Or, you know, imagine Conor. I'm sure they had to deal with, you know, a bunch of, you know, stuff. Conor McGregor, Mike Perry's not, you know what I mean? All these guys, you know, they've had issues with, and that the UFC has not swept things under the rug, but taken care of things. I'm sure there's a shit ton of stuff we don't know about. And he even said, you know, when John Jones You know, he's sure there's been other issues. I'm positive there's other issues.
Oh yeah.
But you know, when you know you're talking about guys like Connor and John Jones, you know, it's just, you know, it's tough, man.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's tough, but you hope they get better.
They're great fighters. Yeah. But that's gonna wrap it up.
Hell yeah, my dude.
For our Friday fight night.
I hope you guys liked it, man. I tried to bring it the best I could, my dude.
Oh, you brought it the best way you could. And it was
but yeah, for sure, man. And you know what I mean? I appreciate it, boys, and I look forward to the next chat.
All right.
Johnny P, baby, Johnny P.
Johnny P. Bardo. You look dead, my man. You all right?
Americano.